Story by Alyssa Hawkins. The rain drenches my sweater as I walk down Park Street. As I look at all the houses, one catches my attention. Emily's. Ever since her funeral, I could never muster up the courage to go down this street. I remember watching her run out on the road with the biggest smile on her face. Before I could even scream for her, a car swerved out on the road. Blood splatters on the road, police are called, and an ambulance siren blares in my ears. Even after a year, I could never get that image out of my head. Her charred hair, the burning rubber smell, and the blood stains on my favorite sweater. I sobbed so much that night I got no sleep for weeks. Even walking down this road brings a tear to my eyes. Flashbacks to when we sang and danced in the rain years ago keep rewinding in my head. If we didn't go out to a party that night, she would still be here, with her amber eyes looking at me with pure joy and the biggest smile I've seen on anyone. I can't help but feel guilty, especially the fact that she didn't want to go out that night, but I still convinced her to. I fall to the ground, my jeans getting soaked from the rain that has fallen onto the ground. "Why did you take her away from me?" I screamed at the top of my lungs at the sky. Even if no one was there, I could feel her comforting smile and remember how every time I cried, she was always there and offered her shoulder out to me. God, how I wish she were here right now, holding me in her arms while I sobbed my eyes out. I always wished I had her midnight black hair that was always put into that perfectly molded bun. She tried to teach me many times, but I always failed, and we laughed at my failed attempts. My brunette hair sprawling everywhere out of my attempt at a bun, which always fell out into a half bun, or even just fell out. Every time a new memory popped into my head, the swirling dread and grief kept pounding into me, no matter how hard I tried. I look at my phone to check the time. The photo of me and Emily at the April dance pop-up, both of us with our hair and makeup done 2 years ago. Especially after her death, I could never change the lock screen. The time read 11:45 p.m. My parents were probably worried sick because I've been out ever since 4 p.m. I slowly stand up, the water dripping from my jeans as I walk towards the bridge. I wipe my rosy tear-stained cheeks. I open the group chat on my phone, slowly typing out the last message anyone would ever hear from me. As I prepare to finally be let go of all my grief and problems, the message sends. The last thing anyone ever hears from me is, "Goodbye, everyone. I love all of you, and I'm sorry for this." I finally jump, and I can feel the swarming air and the rain slamming against my face, feeling like tiny razor blades. I finally am at peace as my body hits the ground with a thud. I suddenly jolted up, my body groaning in pain. Where am I? Finally, my vision unblurs, my eyes adjusting to the bright lights. The doctor looks at me and tells me the news. Luckily, the fall didn't break any major bones or damage vital organs. You should be very appreciative that a hitchhiker found you, or else you could be in worse condition, or even dead. My suicide attempt didn't work, and now my arm is fractured and my ankle is too. Luckily, I only had to be in the hospital for 3 weeks. Then my next trip was to the mental facility. When we show up at the place, I groan out a, "Yay." Even after everything that happened, I could still feel the grief and pain from before. The only person I liked in that stupid facility was Grace. Even though I hated this whole place, she seemed to always brighten the room she walked in. Grace always reminded me of Emily. Even though it was painful, it reminded me that even though she's dead, she will forever be in my heart. Grace and I became instant best friends. She was my roommate, of course. After group therapy, I found out that Grace was here for her self-harm. We were inseparable until I had to leave. She passionately kissed me goodbye, and we swore to see each other again someday. I fell into a state of depression, which my doctors gave me more dreadful pills for. After my recovery, though, I realized school would start in a few months. My biggest fear after all of this would have to be school. I can already feel their pitiful faces and dirty looks. God, I sometimes wished my attempt never failed. I can't deal with the annoying people and the stupid questions. Even teachers would look at me with their faces contorted in worry, disgust, or even asking me my reasons for my attempt. few months later, I've already started to notice people have been paying attention to me. Not the good attention, though. The pity look staring into my soul and the snarky comments muttered under breaths. I can't handle this anymore. Later that night, I ran into the same street where the accident happened. There was a strange figure in a dark hoodie. Why was it in the middle of the road? The figure turns, streetlights illuminating their face. With closer inspection, I think I recognize the face. "Miss me?" a familiar voice eagerly asks. I darted into her comforting grasp. "I missed you greatly." She picks me up, spinning me in her arms. The rain is pouring around us, freezing, but her gorgeous ocean blue eyes staring at me with pure love. Our wet lips collide after being reunited after being apart for so long. Emily was my best friend. Every time I said I love you, I thought that was the only kind of love for me. Grace emerged into my life and everything brightened. My dark clouds are turning into bright summer days. She made me feel like a warm glass of hot chocolate on a winter day every time we saw each other. Grace looked at me with sadness in her eyes. "Leanne, I need to tell you something important." "What's up?" I say. "My parents are moving 5,000 miles away to California." I feel my whole world shatter right in front of me, like a knife in the gut. "But you can't," I cry out. "I need you in my life. I can't be away from you. I can't live without you," I sadly stutter out. "I'll find you in another life," Grace promises. I walk home with tears falling down my face and my new boots covered in mud. I need to keep Grace here with me. I sit in my bedroom crying, thinking of every possible way for her to stay, but nothing convincing comes to mind. The weekend is spent with me in my room, only leaving for food and water occasionally. I start debating going back to the bridge. I can't go on knowing another person I love will leave me and won't come back. I go to the bridge at 3 a.m. I prepare myself to fall off when I feel someone grab my wrist and pull me away from the ledge. I turn around and Grace was there, crying in the dark in my arms as the moon shines over us. "Please don't kill yourself. I'm coming back for you. I can't be without you. There has to be a way." "Promise?" I shakily muttered. "I'll find a way even if it's the last thing I do," Grace swore. Weeks later, I go to the airport. Watching Grace walk away again pains me so much. Grace runs up to me and says, "Don't worry, my love. I have a surprise for you in a week," she says while caressing my face. I'm so confused about what she means by that. For the next week, I stay in my room, bawling my eyes out, without even eating except the 4 crackers on my nightstand. Suddenly, a knock comes on the door. I got a letter. When I opened it, it was Grace's handwriting. "Hey, Leanne, it's Grace. Make sure to look in the envelope for a surprise. Love, Grace." I look in and see a plane ticket and a key. I get on the plane as fast as I can. I can hardly wait to get there to visit. When I get there, the crowds of people swarming my vision, and suddenly, across the room, I see her. I run. I sealed her in my arms after a long time. I could hold her in my arms forever. Our lips colliding after what seems like forever apart. She puts me down, holding my hand. "Let's go home," she says.